in some respects professionally, and I have a side business, and I'm definitely looking at it because, as with any small business, free advertising is better. But I don't want to annoy people while I do it, hence my presence here. What would your suggestions be for that kind of a split-in application?
Yeah, so are you using your same Twitter profile for work as well as your personal life, or do you have them separated?
Separated, most definitely.
Okay, so in your personal one, you're having conversations with your friends, your family, and anybody that you happen to come across. If you're a fan of a brand, you might try and engage with the brand. Is that about right?
Pretty much.
And then on a professional side, how involved are you? Are you, following your prospects and your customers, or how are you using that in your professional life?
Just starting out, so mostly trying to find the right people to follow so that I can kind of build that network.
Okay. Yeah, so, one of the things that we do internally and that I train, our internal sales teams on is, using a tool, and I'm not, I don't want to totally be biased towards Inside View. There's other tools that do this, but Inside View happens to do it fairly good, is, find the companies that you're trying to target, and then find the executives in there that are using Twitter, and then start following them. See what kind of things they're talking about. In this day and age, we are living in a time where we know what our customers and prospects are feeling because they're updating on their statuses on a regular basis. And as they're pushing this stuff out, what we want to do is communicate with them. It doesn't always need to be in a business format, but what we want to do is, just keep engaged. So, one of the things we talked about on the last Social Talk, and I'll mention it again, is we want to make sure that you're creating lists around these people. And within Twitter, you're allowed to create lists that are public or private. And if there's prospects that you're trying to follow, create a list around them. You don't even need to necessarily follow them, but just create a list and add these people to the list and make that list private. That way nobody else can see it but you. But what we found is that when we're following our prospects on Twitter within one of these lists, we're able to see things that are happening with them in almost real time, and then we're able to engage with them. And as salespeople, one of the hardest things for us is, not coming across too salesy. Is that about right?
Pretty much. I want to be a person that's got a thing that I can help with, not necessarily a sales weasel.
Yeah, absolutely. And Twitter isn't the platform for that. It's really more, you can do some quasi-salesy stuff. You can promote your company. You can promote things that are happening out there. But you don't want to really be the hard salesperson. What we have found Twitter to be great for is just building those lines of communication. If there's prospects of yours that are active on Twitter, ease in slowly. Find something interesting, find some commonality, and then push that out there. And say, hey, you're into this book or this sports team or whatever it is, and strike up these conversations. And that's one of the best things that we've found that works. One of the other things is finding alerts around that prospect, that customer, that person that company you're trying to deal with, and show them that you're listening and paying attention to what's happening within their industry. 9 times out of 10, what happens in any person's professional life is they live in their own little bubble and they're very task-oriented. So they're trying to get their job done. They're not really paying attention to things that are happening out in the internet around their industry. So you being that source of knowledge and sharing stuff with them, they will appreciate it. Is that something you think you could do?
That's what I'm hoping for.
We have a guest speaker today, actually. Thank you so much, Shelley. If you have any more questions, be sure to raise your hand again. Let's want to introduce one of our wonderful salespeople. His name is Mike Hack. Mike, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
All right. So Mike Hack is an example of one of the salespeople that we have working here that is I'd say phenomenal when it comes to leveraging social media. And his focus is really within LinkedIn. So Mike, how long have you been using LinkedIn as a salesperson? Well, first of all, tell us about what you do here at Inside View.
Sure. I sell to our small business sector, and help companies with about 200, fewer than 250 employees understand how we can impact their marketing and sales efforts. Using LinkedIn, I've been using it since social media really became a valuable resource. So I'd say about 5-6 years ago, really started paying attention to owning my LinkedIn profile, and then also using it to prepare for not only selling but also promoting my own career and figuring out who I wanted to work with, and understanding potential colleagues as I'm working through an interview process. And there's a lot more resources now that are available, but that was really the best way for me to understand potential opportunities that I didn't really have personal connections with somebody in a company, where I had to see, look into the company and look at and understand the employees within the business without being able to get a direct referral.
Excellent. So one of the things that really stands out about Mike as a salesperson is he's very active in groups. So Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the groups as a salesperson you are paying attention to, and what you're kind of seeing within these groups and how you use them?
So depending on, right now I'm most active in groups that are related to sales productivity, sales methodology, marketing, because that's what where Inside View focuses. Previously, I've sold other solutions, everything from ERP products, CRM, marketing solutions, security, and then also identity and access management. And there are great groups on LinkedIn, among other social media channels, that are extremely helpful for a number of reasons. First of all, you can go to these groups and very quickly figure out who is equally as active as you are in that industry, and use them for both a resource to educate yourself, and then also to help you generate a network, create visibility through manual connections on LinkedIn. But then you can also start building your own brand, and I think this is something that you focus on a lot, Koka, which is when you see something, when you see a comment or a thread or a question that you understand what somebody, you really understand that topic, and you feel that you can provide an expertise or at least some level of advice or even some additional questions that are relevant to the conversation, when you step in and start speaking and adding content there online, you provide value, and people respond to that, and they, whether you realize it or not, they start looking for your responses. They start hoping that you respond, and then what will end up happening is they'll start connecting with you and coming to you with ideas and questions directly via email. And now you have this trusted network of people that you not only rely on to help you grow your business, but they consider you a resource, and they start sort of driving other people to you, and just like anything that snowballs, it can really help you make money.
Outstanding. Hey, it looks like we have a question here. Let me see if Mr. Jay Belmont is on the phone. Jay, are you there?
I am.
Hey, Jay, so what's your question?
Well, my question was actually in regards to the previous topic, but this question could go to both you, Soka, or Mike, is basically, as we approach clients, as we approach prospects, what's the advice on drawing the line between friendly contact versus hardcore salesperson, or even, salesperson versus, well, creepy cyber stalker? I mean, what's your advice on how to draw that line?
Totally understand. So the line, in my opinion, comes from two different factors. To avoid the creepy cyber stalker, you're always going to want to message them with something that is obviously relevant, and by that I mean it's personal or it's business, and the amount that you engage with them or attempt to connect with them, so if you're looking for a volume, the term I like to use is kind of open-ended, and I like to say be tastefully aggressive when you're trying to connect with somebody. And that, depending on who they are, you can be very aggressive with certain people depending on what you're trying to do, and then with somebody else you need to step it way back, where you could try to connect with somebody every day and it's tasteful because of who you are and who they are, and you need to use your judgment. And then there's somebody else that, depending on the relationship there, you should only be doing it, every couple of weeks or once a month, and you need to be patient. And also those messages need to be extremely exciting, right? So there's a spectrum there that you should focus on depending on that relationship. Now, the other component that's important with engagement outside of volume and how aggressive you are is what you say. And as a salesperson, it's important that you're not plugging yourself all the time online. You're not plugging your business. You're not plugging your products and services. It's shameless. It's something that people immediately ignore. They roll their eyes at it, and they realize that you're not trying to provide value. Even if you are providing value and that's your intent, if you're plugging your own product, it's like somebody telling you about how you ask them about their day and all they do is tell you how much money they make. And it can be very obnoxious. So when you...
Well, so sorry to cut you off, Mike. So are you saying that we shouldn't mention our companies at all? I mean, as a salesperson, you're in the trenches every day. Are you promoting successes of the company? I mean, where is that line drawn when it comes to actually talking about good things versus just having the engaging conversation?
So any salesperson knows that there's a big difference between trying to generate a meeting or close business versus talking aggregately or in general about your business and things that are going well in your business. One is focused on your pocketbook and the other one isn't. And in the case where you are trying to focus on your pocketbook is the moment that you're starting to fail using social media. So the best way to do that is by talking about things that are unrelated to that, and even if your product and service is relevant, just mention that it is relevant and that if somebody has a question related to your product, you're available. But don't really try to provide content there. Focus on your competitors. Focus on things and don't do it negatively. Find things that are positive to say about these people and these products and service, or just talk in general about the industry. And what you can really do is position yourself as an expert, and then what happens is people respond to you offline, and that's where you can start pitching, and that's where you can start focusing on your pocketbook.
So that really was what it comes down to, is having these conversations and building that rapport, and then finding ways to pull these conversations from a cyberspace into the real world. Is that about right?
Make it personal, and at that point you can also do an appropriate discovery call with them and understand their actual business needs rather than speaking in generalities, and that's going to be a much more valuable conversation for you both anyway.
Does that answer your question, Jay?
Yeah, works good for me, thanks.
All right, no problem. Thank you for asking the question. Where are you calling from, by the way?
Madison, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, outstanding. Let's talk about a few events that we have coming up. One, thanks, Mike. I mean, I'm sure there might be some other questions, so I don't know if you need to get back to the phones, but you can hang out and enjoy the show from the inside. We have Sapphire coming up. We're big supporters of SAP. We integrate within their CRM. So inside view, if any of you are SAP customers, we're going to be at that event. We also have Silverpop, which is another great company if you are looking for Salesforce or, marketing automation tools. They have their annual customer summit coming up as well, and they have the Blues Travelers. I'm not really much of a Blues Travelers fan. Any of you guys? No? But I'm sure that that's going to be a big event for them. Sweet World, that's going to be here in the Bay Area. NetSuite, if any of you are NetSuite CRM customers. I'm actually going to be speaking on a panel there along with, I believe, Yammer around the social enterprise and how to leverage NetSuite's one of their newer products to improve. Comp Cloud by Exactly. There's a lot of user conferences coming up, you guys. Exactly. In fact, I can't really say enough about Exactly. If I wasn't working at Inside View, I'd probably go there. I mean, their product is one of the first that I've seen that's actually able to tie game mechanics around making money. Most companies don't use it that way. They use it for compensation management, but you can actually set up their application to say, hey, if these things happen within an account and deals close, they can make more or less money based on certain activities. So if any of you are Exactly customers or looking for a way to kind of entice salespeople to be more proactive in their efforts, Exactly is a great company for that. Marketo, another marketing automation tool. We're huge fans of Marketo. We're going to be at their summit as well, and I believe I'll be speaking at that one on the 23rd. But yeah, these are all big events that we have coming up, and we want to always support our supporters. So Marketo, SAP, Exactly, and Silverpop. Good luck with your user conferences. Another thing that we have coming up that I think that, or actually it's already done, right, Kevin? Right? We just launched the new version of Social Selling University. So if you haven't looked at the blog lately, it's gotten quite a facelift. We now have a lot more content coming in. We want to focus on social selling tips. Our webinar listings are in there. We have a bunch of resources getting put in. I think we have 2 or 3 new guidebooks coming out in the next few weeks.
Yeah, we actually have a guidebook on a couple things. One, we have a guidebook on LinkedIn for social selling. It's a 40-page book about LinkedIn, and kind of goes over just what Mike talked about with the do's and don'ts of social selling with LinkedIn. It's a really fantastic book, and we're just wrapping up social selling with Twitter as well. Both kind of the first of their kind there. So I'm really excited to get this done, and also we have a social selling checklist book. So yeah, 3 guidebooks in the queue right now. Should be done here in the next week or so.
Outstanding. In fact, that raises somebody had a question in the chat. Other than being able to raise your hand, which we always appreciate people asking questions live on the calls, like they did with Mike and myself. You type it into the chat box. One of the questions that came up from Doreen was, how many times a week should you be on Twitter in business? And that's a great question, and I think that comes up a lot when we talk to companies. And I don't really know what the right answer is. I mean, is it obviously I live in it. But as a salesperson, what I typically say is, don't go crazy. I mean, you still have a job to do. This is going to be a change in process for, most of the things that you're doing. So, stick your toe in for a little while. Set up your profiles. Go and monitor some conversations, follow some people, build some lists. I'd say maybe an hour, 2 hours a week to kind of get familiar with it, and you'll start seeing some results, and then you can kind of increase your time over that. Mike, you're raising your hand over there. You got some questions about this? Or you got some?
Yeah, so sometimes it's hard to quantify something like that, but if you understand the benefits, the business benefits to one of these forums, channels, to you as a salesperson, you can determine that time frame yourself. And so the 3 major benefits for me and for most people in Twitter are, it's great for rapport building and understanding, personal life, because people publish that. It's also great for a lot of these busy executives that have, you have a CTO or a CMO, some of these high-level guys, especially as companies get really big, they have too many initiatives to focus on in any given time period, so whether it be the quarter or the year. So they'll start publishing the things they're working on online and wait for a sales rep or a savvy marketing person to respond to these initiatives with an ROI story that's relevant. And then they'll prioritize that initiative and allow you to get to engage in a business, purchase your product or service if it works for them. The third benefit are all these networking events. So these trade organizations are no longer, most of them are no longer publishing attendee lists. And that can be really frustrating because a lot of these conferences are a day, 2 days, and you don't have time to find and set up the meetings, the FaceTime with your prospects and customers if they're there. You may see them there or realize they're there way too late. So you get into things like Twitter or LinkedIn or even Facebook, and you're going to see forums of people that are attending things and sharing information. And you can use these to prepare for the shows ahead of time. Now, depending on how you run your business and what's valuable to you in your vertical, more time there might be better. Also, using a product that aggregates that information and summarizes it for you can help you avoid spending too much time listening in any one of these specific channels. It'll aggregate it all for you so you can see what's important to you and respond to it, and that'll minimize the amount of time that you need to spend in them. So I hope.
That brings up a great point. One of the things that we've been seeing some early successes on is looking at the events and seeing who's attending these things within these networks. We have an enterprise rep here that, especially when you hit the enterprise, getting a hold of an executive within one of these larger corporations it's near impossible unless you happen to catch them at the right moment, or you have a connection into the company. But what he does is he looks at these big events that we're going to be part of as a company and says, hey, who from any of my prospects are going to be there? And then he reaches out to them either on Twitter or on LinkedIn or some other social network and schedules a meeting that way. And he's actually finding a lot of successes as Ramon. I think that's something that a lot of salespeople aren't doing, and I think that they should be doing more of. I mean, if these executives are going from event to event in some cases, and getting time with them is going to be extremely valuable to you. So you should probably spend a few minutes to kind of see where they're spending their time and see if that's when you can get things going. Here's something that I want to share with everybody. So, Doug Lehman, let me actually see if Doug is on the phone. I believe he is. Hey, Doug, do you have a mic? Are you on? I don't know if Doug has a mic, but Doug Lehman, one of the things I do within the company is, monitor things that are being said about Inside View and Social Selling University. And Doug has recently come out with a people selling, and he actually mentioned Social Selling University. So, Doug, I know you're on the webinar. You might not have a mic, but we appreciate it. And for everybody else on this in attendance here, check it out. Go into YouTube and type in Social Selling TV with Doug Lehman, and he's got some great tips in there for salespeople to be focusing on. Let's go into some news. One of the things that we want to do within Social Talk is share some news of things that are happening within the social media world to kind of keep all of you salespeople up to speed. In recent news, if you hadn't heard, the government is going to Twitter and asking them to provide data on one of their customers. This was, I think, what happened on Tuesday. They filed a motion in court to quash the subpoena, where the New York government is trying to get Twitter data from a specific individual that was part of the Occupy protests. I believe the story was something along the lines that he got arrested, claimed that he didn't know that the police were trying to get them to leave, but the police believe that he had actually sent out some tweets saying that he knew these things were happening. But I guess he deleted the tweets. I don't know why they couldn't see it in the stream. Maybe he probably deleted them after the fact. But once it happens on the internet, it's stored everywhere stored somewhere forever. So the government's trying to go in and get that information, and Twitter is standing up and saying, no, we're not going to do it. And I'd be interested to see what questions or what comments you have around that. If anybody wants to raise their hand. Oh, actually, here looks like Doug's back on the phone. Hey, Doug, are you there? Oh, Doug must be having technical difficulties. He raised his hand. Well, Doug, if you come back on, just say something, and we'll talk to you. Something else that's recently happened is Facebook. They're launching an app store, which I think is really interesting for Facebook and for companies. I mean, we all live in Facebook. I think Facebook's probably the #1 destination for people when it comes to social networks, primarily for personal use, but we're seeing it for more professional use also. But they're opening up an app store, and I think that as a company, as Inside You, being a social company, we're looking into it. But we're going to see more and more companies popping up in the B2B space, like BranchOut, for example. Mike, you know anything about BranchOut? They, it's kind of like a business network that runs through Facebook. So I guess LinkedIn for Facebook is a good analogy for it. But they have a lot more social components within their app. Again, that's just some good news about Facebook's growth and what they're doing, and I think we'll be seeing more and more B2B focus within some of these apps. Oh, here it is. Here's the tweet that was actually sent out. So Benjamin Lee is the attorney from Twitter, and this is what he sent out when they had gotten the subpoena from the New York City government. And one of the things that he points out here, that I'm pointing out here, is that he uses the hashtag core values in this tweet. And, that really kind of spoke to me, because, it's great to know that these companies, these social networks that everybody are spending their time, so much time in, they're being protected by the social networks. And, it sounds here to like that Twitter is, they see a core value in protecting their users. And it's great to see stuff like that. So let's go into some new stuff here. Let's talk about 5 things not to do on social media. This is actually a list of 10 things, but I'm only going to go through 5. If you're interested in all 10, I'll tell you where when we get to the end of this. But this is a funny picture. You're doing it wrong. I think that's how a lot of people feel when it comes to some of the people they know around social networks. So one thing, number one, what not to do. Don't ever tweet about job interviews or job offers. There's a great story, and I believe it's mentioned in this article. Don't know the lady's name, it's not mentioned in here, but there was a lady who, it was in the height of the depression or the downturn of the economy, and getting a job was almost impossible here in California. And this lady got a job offer from Cisco, was driving home from the interview, and sent out a tweet basically saying, Cisco offered me a job, but now she has to, weigh the utility of a fat paycheck against this commute to San Jose and hating her job. Who does that? I mean, it blows my mind that people actually use Twitter in this fashion. Cisco saw it, and basically she was told not to come into work on Monday. Before she even started her first day at work, she didn't even get the job. So one of the things to not do on social media, don't talk about the interviews that you're going through or job offers. Kind of save that stuff for regular conversation. You might be able to announce it when you start to work there, but most companies, especially like Cisco, they're very social savvy. There's going to be some policies around stuff like this, so you should be aware of what those things are. Here's one of my favorite ones, Kevin. In fact, I use this guy, in a lot of our internal social media trainings. Kevin here decided that it was right around Halloween time, and he was going to call in sick to work. I guess he some emergency. I think this happened a few years ago, but this guy's story comes up all the time. He called in sick. He didn't realize that he had some coworkers of his, friends on Facebook, and some pictures of him at some party dressed up like a fairy. Well, it eventually got to his boss, and they messaged him or sent him an email and basically said, "Sorry to hear you had a family emergency, but by the way, nice picture of you in the fairy costume, or nice wand," or something along those lines. Again, if you're going to be calling in sick to work, if you're playing hooky, don't go on Facebook and start posting pictures of things you're doing. Don't go, be careful. Don't go on Foursquare and talk about you being, gallivanting around a park when you're supposed to be sick. It's just common sense, you guys. Number 3 on the list was, criticize your work conditions. If one of the things that people feel very comfortable on Twitter about is just talking about how they feel, and that's one of the benefits of having a network like this. But you have to be careful about what you're saying. Don't criticize your work conditions. If you have if you're feeling stressed out at your job, if your boss is being mean to you, whatever the case is, what you really need to do is kind of contain this stuff. Once you push this stuff out online, either be on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, it's out there and it can be seen. and you'll lose your job. You'll definitely be looked down upon by some of your other coworkers. But you just got to be careful. I mean, if it's a serious offense, if there's some type of harassment or some legal issue that you're wanting to push out there, then you probably can because you're looking for support. But just to use it as a venting tool probably isn't the best use of these social networks. Here's something that I think, when it comes to us talking to our customers and talking to people about how to leverage social media, what do they tweet? What don't they update? What kind of things should they be using for content? Rule number one is never post off-color or tasteless remarks. Companies, any company nowadays should know that their employees are using social networks in some fashion, and they should all have some training around that. Again, I'll say this a million times, is once you put it out there, it's there for everyone to see. Regardless of how closed off your network is, what your privacy settings are, if you're sharing it and someone is allowed to see it, you have to assume that other people are allowed to see it also. So be very careful about the things that you're posting up there because, one, it'll be detrimental to the career you have now, as well as, it could possibly keep you from getting a job in the future. Number 5, tell the world that you're bored. I mean, let's face it. If you have a job and you're supposed to be working, and obviously your company thinks that you should be employed there because there's a job to do. Don't go online and start talking about how bored you are at your job. I mean, I think that goes, rolls up into a couple of the other top 5s that we've already gone through. Just be careful what you're putting out there. Here's one that I like to say is number 8 on the list is, don't pick a public fight. And, we see these. In fact, I should probably actually have a whole webinar on this, on, what this looks like. But, in many cases, what companies will do or what somebody will do is see a disparaging remark about them or the company they're working for, and then they'll fight back. And, again, I think this all comes down to training. You don't want to pick a public fight. It's going to be visible to everyone, and all it's going to do is hurt you, your career, and your company's image in the process. If you see some disparaging remarks, either ignore it or bring it to somebody's attention that actually, is capable of responding to these things. Do you have a question, Kevin?
Yeah, just a couple of things, actually. Yeah, a couple things, actually. I mean, one of the questions being, I know a lot of people are wondering, what about alcohol being posted on your Facebook? Because I know I've been involved with a couple companies that are very kind of relaxed in terms of just having a couple of beers for happy hour. Also, some meetings being done over a beer. I mean, that's how. I know a lot of sales professionals know that a great sales meeting can just be done over a beer. So, I mean, in terms of, posting, maybe you with a cocktail on Facebook, or maybe you tweet like, hey, having some dinner with a beer or something like that. I mean, what are the restrictions for you? I mean, I know that a good story comes from, I forget where the teacher was, but a teacher posted on Facebook of her, Georgia? Okay. A teacher in Georgia posted a picture on Facebook of her at a casual event with friends, and a beer was in her hand. I don't even think it was a red cup. I think it was just, just a regular beer. She got fired when she returned on Monday because apparently, that's not. It's in the restrictions of being a teacher. So, in terms of sales professionals, in terms of business people, what do you think? What are your suggestions for people in terms of posting alcohol?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of it's a case-by-case basis. I don't talk to our salespeople. You look at some of their pictures. It's I mean, they're not doing anything crazy, but I mean, no keg stands or anything. But it's part of the company culture. We have happy hours. We go out for company events. It's not uncommon for some beers to flow. But you just have to be careful. In this case of this teacher in Georgia, we mentioned, I think, on the last SocialTalk or maybe one of the SSU webinars. I think she got the raw deal. I mean, I don't know all the inside information around what was happening. in regards to her performance, or if any of that was really a play, or if it really was just this photo that was placed on Facebook. But she was double fisting in the picture. Who knows? Maybe she was bringing one or both drinks to somebody at this party she was at, and she had this picture on Facebook. She ended up losing her job, brought it to court, and the court actually kept basically said, hey, you don't have a case here. You got fired for doing something that you weren't supposed to do. So there's got to be more to it than what the news had initially picked up on. But I'm not necessarily against it. I think when you're on these social networks, if you're using Twitter for professional use the way that we heard about earlier, you probably want to refrain from having those. You want to keep those to your personal accounts. But I mean, unless you're doing something way off kilter. Again, if the extreme I always use is if you shouldn't be posting pictures on Twitter, Facebook, or anywhere, you in a beer bong and a bunch of guys with a six-pack getting poured down your throat. That probably isn't a good thing to have floating around out there. But maybe it's just the liberal environment that we work in here at Inside View. But we don't really see an issue with that, and I'm sure that some companies do. Maybe somebody that's in attendance here wants to raise their hand and kind of give their opinion on this, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Jay, did you have something to say about that? Jay had raised his hand. I thought maybe he had a question. So yeah, be careful what you put out there. If maybe she should have known that that the school was against this kind of stuff. I don't know. It's a tough call. One of the things I was taught about in the Army was always have situational awareness, and maybe this is one of those times that she just should have been aware. But again, I don't really see why it would be that big of an issue. Let's kind of move the topic here, something a little bit more happy, I guess. Let's start talking. I think that it's one of the things that many of you in the webinar want to hear about. Let's talk about some tools that you're using. I want to know what what applications you have. Maybe this is a good time for a poll. So let's make sure everybody's still paying attention. What's your favorite social network? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it LinkedIn? I'm not talking about just professional use, but what is your favorite social network? Wait till we get a bunch of these votes in. Looks like a little more than half of you are paying attention, because I know that you're using some social network. All right. Let's share these results. So we got 50% of the people use Facebook, which isn't really surprising. I would have thought that number was really high, but maybe that's just getting skewed because LinkedIn is kind of dominating in this. LinkedIn for B2B is probably the social network. Maybe we should have a whole social talk about this, but I believe that 80% of the salespeople on LinkedIn are using it wrong. Most of the people I talk to are still using it for an online resume, which I guess has some benefits, but there's a lot more value in it. If you want that for your resume, that's fine. There's other ways, there's other tools out there that allow you to do this in a more friendly format. But LinkedIn, it's at 46%, and 4% are using Twitter. I'd be interested to find out if any of you are using Facebook for business. So if anybody has any comments on that, feel free to raise your hand. But I'll talk about it for a minute here. Actually, here, let's see. We got Ben. Ben, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, Ben, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Boston.
Boston, all right. Well, thank you for attending today. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm considering putting up an advertisement on Facebook via a web page. So it's got nothing to do with any personal thing with a wall or anything. But I'd like to know what your comments are about advertising both sales skills or products on Facebook.
Are you a salesperson, or what kind of role do you operate in?
I'm a sales executive. I sell software development services to large corporations.
Okay. And so you want to put it, you're thinking of putting an ad up on Facebook that then, I guess, drives them to a landing page?
Well, I haven't thought about the strategy yet. I just thought it might be interesting. I just want to know what your comments are about it. Maybe it wouldn't be an effective way to do this. Maybe using LinkedIn a little differently would be more effective, or actually I was interested in what you said about following executives on Twitter. I haven't done that before.
Yeah, so let's go. Let's start with Facebook. I think that most of the research will show that keeping people within Facebook, ads that then drive people to some Facebook page usually get a higher response rate. But that being said, people obviously are willing to click on ads on Facebook and drive them to a landing page. I haven't used Facebook ads as a sales tool, but it's a very interesting concept, right? I mean, if you have something valuable that you want to put out there, Facebook is an extremely large network, and they have some pretty robust demographic stipulations you can bake into the ad, you might be able to generate some good stuff from that. Within LinkedIn, I think that that's another way to go. A lot of companies find a lot of benefit of advertising on LinkedIn. One of the things that we're seeing a lot more of, and are you very active on LinkedIn also, Ben?
Yes, I am.
Have you been seeing a large influx of in-mails or just messages from people?
Not a large influx. I have to spend a lot of time and go through the groups I'm in and take a look at the conversations and make some comments here and there.
All right.
All of this takes a lot of time, and I'm trying to be very effective about selling.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's one of the things that comes up a lot is how much time should you really be spending in these things, and are you seeing any value? And putting ads within LinkedIn, I think it does have some value, but you're spending money for that, and I think that to draw in interest and to build these connections you're probably doing it the right way. Go into some of these groups, answer questions, become that thought leader, the advisor within a lot of these groups, and what we have found is that people will start coming to you. Do you ever use the section in your profile that says how many people have viewed your profile?
Oh yes, all the time.
I think that's one of the things that most salespeople just don't use enough of, or they're not using it effectively. I think being active in these groups, either asking questions or answering questions, is one of the best ways to, as a salesperson, to drive your own inbound leads. As a salesperson, that's what I did. I hated pounding phones, and I say this on a lot of webinars and when I do talk sessions at other events. I hated making phone calls. It was part of my job, so I did it, but it wasn't an enjoyable part of my day. So what I did was, I kind of mixed it up. I made my phone calls, left my messages, had some conversations, but I'd spend some time every week in these groups finding conversations that I could be a part of, and I started realizing that people kept coming to my profile, and then I started reaching out to them and figuring out, is there an opportunity there? And if there was, then that's how we brought them into the cycle. And kind of what Mike was saying earlier, have these conversations online, and then find ways to pull them offline.
So can we talk about Facebook for a minute again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking about putting this a web page up that would point to a landing page, but the advantage of Facebook would be if I'd had some keywords embedded in this site, some people might want to friend the web page. Can you explain how that might work? Because I don't have a Facebook account right now. So what would be the advantage of having some sort of web ad up on Facebook? Would people be able to find me or look for a skill, or I would show up in a search engine optimization versus having an independent web page separately from Facebook? Can you touch on that a bit?
Yeah, so one of the benefits of having a Facebook page, is that there will be some SEO value from that. People will be able to find you when they search for things within Facebook. I haven't seen it in recent stats, but a lot of people go into Facebook outside of keeping in contact with their friends and colleagues, and they type something into the search box to see what's being said about a trending topic. We've gotten some good fans, some people that have come to our Facebook page for Inside View that way. They've communicated that to us, like, hey, I was looking for inside sales tips, and when I typed that into Facebook, not really knowing what was going to show up, we came across your page. Having an external link, having an ad that then goes to an external link, you should probably work with your marketing department on creating a special landing page for this, so you can actually measure the effectiveness of it. But I would expect that you're actually going to see some results. It's fairly inexpensive. And you're driving traffic to something that is still relevant. You're able to set it up so if you know that you look at your network and you say, hey, we'll use Inside View for lack of another example, but we say, who's a fan of National Business? Who's a fan of Forbes, Harvard Business Review? That's probably the network that would be interested in our product. And we created an ad, put it in Facebook, and say, if you are a fan of these other pages, show this ad within Facebook. That way, you're not getting everybody under the sun seeing your ad and clicking on it and wasting a bunch of money, but you're able to target this stuff down. And we've done that as a company. We've experimented a little bit on how salespeople could do this. We don't have we can't share any of these results yet, but I think there's some value in it because it's fairly inexpensive and it actually drives traffic.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
Koka. No, that's good, Koka. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate it, Ben. Let's try Jay again. Jay, are you there?
Yeah, I got the mic working this time.
All right. Do you have a question? You want to comment on something?
Actually, I was going to comment on the last gentleman because, I do a lot of Facebook advertising. I actually market a hotel and a restaurant with Facebook primarily. That's the main social media that we're using at this current time just because we're kind of behind the game as far as social media goes, so we're taking it one at a time rather than just get lost. But I'm finding that the biggest benefit that I'm getting out of the Facebook advertising is that I'm getting people that I normally would not have had any other social connection to, all of a sudden becoming fans of my page, becoming friends of my page. So even if they're not buying the one product or the one event that I'm doing with that particular ad at that time, then they're then opening up the connection for me to engage them for something else the next time around. And that's the one thing that I'm really liking about the pay-per-click advertising via Facebook is even if you're not getting them to buy that exact product at that exact time, you're almost getting you're paying for a relationship almost instead of just paying for the click for them to buy that product. I've gotten probably about 60% of the likes from people that don't work for our hotel that we have for our Facebook page all came from the advertisements that we were running. And so it's a real benefit.
Outstanding. Yeah, no, I think that, that's an excellent example. I think that if, as a company, all you're worried about is the likes, you're measuring the wrong things. You want to grow that network. You want to do things that, expand your reach. But yeah, I think you have the right strategy there. You want to find ways to build connections. You want to find ways to engage these people who are actually fans of your page. And it sounds like you're doing that very well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Let's take another question here. Kieran, are you able to speak?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, you did.
All right. And where are you calling from, Karen?
I'm actually based in New York, in the suburbs.
In the suburbs?
Yeah.
And what kind of industry are you in?
Well, I actually do marketing,
Okay.
and I work for SAP and iFridge, so they mostly focus in IT.
Okay. And what was your question?
Well, I was just going to say, based on the gentleman before who was just asking in terms of ads on Facebook and LinkedIn, personally, I've achieved more success with the LinkedIn ads, just in terms of the engagement. I've gotten a lot more traffic from the Facebook people, But when I go down to like, Google Analytics and see how much time someone's spending on the site, personally I found out that with LinkedIn, the engagement is a lot higher. People stay on the pages a lot longer. So I was just curious, to get your feedback on it. Do you think that that's something that has more to do with the platform, or do you think it could just be the type of content that you're putting out on Facebook versus LinkedIn?
Well, I think content always has a piece of it. And just make sure I was understanding correctly, people are spending more time on a LinkedIn page versus a Facebook page?
Yeah, so like anything that I'm promoting, I meant in terms of ads. So any of the ads that I'm promoting on LinkedIn and Facebook, most of them have been, blogs, or they've been campaigns to register for webinars. But people that come from LinkedIn, they just spend a lot more time actually reading the content as opposed to Facebook. So I just don't know if that's just not the right audience, or is it the ads themselves that just don't perform better in one versus the other?
Kevin, you got any insight on that?
Yeah, I think it really has to do with, LinkedIn is a business platform, and Facebook is a more personal platform. And I really think, me personally, when I'm looking for something that has to do with my job in the business realm, I'm looking on LinkedIn. I'm not looking on Facebook. Facebook is, I feel is a little more B2C. I'm going out and I'm liking of wineries and different consumer products and whatnot. But when I'm on LinkedIn and I see a really awesome looking webinar or great blog post, something like that, I'm for sure going to click on that, because the other thing too is when you clock in at 8 o'clock in the morning, especially for me, I just go straight into business mode. I try to stay off Facebook as much as possible, because it's just it's a personal platform. When I go home and I'm on Facebook, I'm there looking at personal stuff. I kind of want to turn off my brain of the day from the business realm a little bit, and I'm probably more in tune to pay attention to a great webinar or a great blog post when I'm on LinkedIn as opposed to Facebook, which is a little more personal.
Yeah, I definitely think that maybe that's
Does that help
the
you out?
reason why. Yeah, because now that I'm thinking about it, even at the times that we're doing a lot of these postings, it's usually like 10 o'clock in the morning, or like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, where people are just maybe not even on Facebook when we're running all of these ads and stuff.
Yeah, it might be
So
worth
that
kind of
explains it.
A/B testing that and seeing if your Facebook ads run later in the evening, if people stay on your pages longer.
Yeah, that's something great. Yeah, I definitely want to try that. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, go on LinkedIn today. Actually, right now they have a great post. Actually, Bitly just came out with a blog post that when are the best times to post on Facebook and Twitter, because Bitly just has all that data, and they just came out with it today. So I just read this morning. If you go on LinkedIn today, I think the post should be there. I'd go ahead and take a look at that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kieran. Let's see. Dina's been on hold for a while. Let's ask Dina. Dina, are you there?
Yeah, so my question is that I have an online presence, but it's more personal, and I've built a following. And I have a professional, like I have my own business and all that, and I was wondering, is it possible to convert that presence, or should I just rebuild a new one? Because, the two are going to intertwine. The more you see people are searching for others, you inevitably end up finding, the other persona.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've always said is that if you're going to do this and you want to do it right, you should always use your own personal brand. And if you're going to have a profile that's totally personal only, you need to make sure that it's completely scrubbed of any identifying information. Granted, that's not going to completely eradicate that presence of your name. But having two profiles, let's say if I had one said Koka Sexton at Inside View, and then just one for Koka Sexton, people are going to get the wires crossed.
Right.
If you say you've already built a following?
Yeah, so I already have a following, and it's not bad. It's I had this in social media for a little bit. It was back in the day when everyone was kind of using like a kind of a pseudo handle, and and so I still go under that. It's not risque or anything like that, but my professional background is in health insurance, and the two kind of intertwined, but not quite, not in the social respect of it. So So
It would
I
be
mean,
interesting.
like,
I mean, you could probably try and convert it.
Yeah, and I could. I mean, it's not a problem. It's just that the people that follow me on my pseudo presence follow me for my social media background and my relationships to tech companies versus professionally, like I'm more known for employee benefits.
Got it. And that's
So
what you use
they
your
wouldn't
professional one for?
understand the two. Huh?
And are you using the other profile for more the HR benefits and things along those lines?
No, I haven't even set it up. I worked for a company and I'm going out on my own now, so I was considering that because it's nice because my social following has very large networks that I can communicate through, but I kind of like keeping the two worlds separate like that though.
Yeah, and if that's what you want to do, you want to keep them separate.
In this day and age.
Then it's possible. It's going to be difficult. People are going to be able to find you on either one. But if you're going to separate it, just make sure that you actually keep it separated. I would, if you have a larger following on this established profile that you have, you might want to, like, once every few days retweet something from your professional side, so that at least your existing network is aware that you have this professional presence out there also. That'd be something that I'd recommend. But if you want to keep them separated, then really keep them separated. But you have to make sure, that's the hard part about having two different profiles on any given social network, is you just got to make sure you're staying active on both.
Right. That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I mean, that's why there's tools out there that help you manage these things. And we'll kind of go over a couple of those in here. But yeah, it's a tough call. But I think that you can find ways to convert the stuff that you have if you know that there's a business opportunity in there. You just want to make sure that you're not becoming across as over salesy, and that you just you're just allowing your existing network to know that you have these benefits, this existing this business that you're starting, that you want to get people a part of.
Okay. Thank you.
That brings up a good topic of tools, and that's kind of what we were kind of going into here. Sprout Social, big fan of Sprout. They've been on, I think they joined a couple webinars, but Justin and team were always in support of them. They have a great tool out there. There's something else that we came across. Doing some research for this webinar, something called Bottlenose. I'd be interested to know if any of you are using this, but I started playing around with it just a couple days ago, and it's free. And what it's able to do is you put in your Twitter account, and it looks at your followers and the people that you're following, and it starts giving you key trends that are coming up. So you're able to kind of get really fine-tuned information on what's being said by your network, and you're able to separate the stuff out based on mentions of you. You don't have that in the screenshot, but you can say who in my network is talking about sports, and it's intelligent enough to break that information out, or who in my network is talking about business-related stuff, and it's able to break out these conversations, so you're really able to get fine-tuned within these conversations in real time. Cloud's something, I really hope that at some point we can get Cloud on the phone and maybe have him as a guest speaker. But Cloud is one of those services that it builds a lot of hype. It gets a lot of controversy. How are they really measuring influence, and what does influence really mean? But I really do think that Cloud is the standard when it comes to this. I think that as a sales professional, somebody who's managing, trying to leverage social media as a sales tool, you should be aware of what your Cloud score is and what the Cloud scores are of the people in your network. You're able to build your influence, so it'll kind of lean you or kind of direct you into the conversations you should be having to increase that score. But it's excellent, and one of the things that our sales team uses it for is to find influencers. Who's the biggest influencer around a specific industry? You start talking to these influencers, and people start paying attention to you. And most of these influencers are very open to having conversations with people. So using a tool like Cloud to find those influencers to have the conversations with does pay off. And so I think that anybody that's in a sales role that is trying to leverage Twitter, this is a great tool to start off with. And I mentioned this once before, and I'll say it, as we're closing this out, start building some lists. Go into Twitter, start finding some brands, some individuals. Use Inside View to build a list on executives in your industry that have Twitter profiles, and build your list within Twitter. Could be your prospects, customers, could just be other influencers. Make some of the lists private, make some of them public, and start really segmenting your network into conversations that you really want to start having. Here's an example of what it looks like within Inside View. We'll use my good buddy Mark Benioff as the example. He's very active. I mean, as the CEO of Salesforce, it's amazing this guy has any time to do anything in a social network. But he's fairly active. He probably has people that help him out with this. But go in, see the things that he's tweeting about. I mean, Mark is active on Twitter, and he's engaging. As you can see, he's following 426 people. He's got over 9,000 followers. He's got over 1,200 tweets, and he's constantly pushing out information. I mean, if you want to get Benioff's attention, start commenting on things that he's spreading out there. If it's he has something here about the Chevy Volt, you should probably throw something out there about Chevy if you have any information on that. We ran a little bit over. It's 11:10. We try and close these things out at 11. But what I want to do is open this up. If there's any other final questions from anyone, either raise your hand, put them in the chat box, and we'll be sure to answer it. But if not, I really appreciate everybody's time today. Hope you found some value in today's Social Talk, and we'll let you know when we have the next one scheduled. So thank you, everyone, and you have a great rest of the day.